everyone. My name is Jessie, and I'm here today with the Rocky Mountain Raptor program to talk with you guys a little bit about what's going on outside. So as I'm sure we've all started to notice, it is transitioning more into spring. And with spring, a lot of different things happen for a lot of different animals, but particularly with our raptors, we're seeing a lot of migration, breeding, and nesting going on right now, and especially here in the Colorado area. So today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what our raptors are up to out in the spaces that we share with them and some things that we can do to help this process along. So moving on, I would like to first introduce you to my helper here with me today. This is our educational ambassador, Great Horned Owl. He is a permanently disabled resident with us, meaning that due to his injuries, he is unable to be released into the wild. So he spends his time here with us, bringing programs out to people like you. And so you can see here, he's got that gular flapping here on his throat, which is the same way that your dog or pet might pant. He's probably just a little bit uneasy with the warehouse checking everything out around us, but that's a perfectly normal response that we can see here. And so he came into us in 2018 as a nestling. And due to his, again, permanent disability, whether that was a head trauma incident, and he did actually test positive for West Nile virus, that left him with a little bit of a mental deficiency that would leave him unable to be re-released into the wild. So things like he's unable to hunt for his own food. He's not really sure what he's meant to be doing in the wild, therefore he's not able to sustain himself in that natural way. And so let's just take a moment, check him out. We have a lovely volunteer handler with us today who's doing an amazing job helping us out. Give us a little wave. Oh, yeah. So with these great horned owls, they are a little bit past their breeding season, so they're definitely nesting, and we're going to be seeing them in a little bit different stage than this adult form that you'll see here. But moving on, we have the American Kestrels up first. And the Kestrels exhibit a lot of different fun spring behaviors. And so one thing that they are known to do is vocalize. And this is really great for us here at the Raptor Center because our educational ambassador, Kestrel, he has been trilling at us and making all of these great fun noises as we walk down the hallways. And one thing about Kestrels is that they are cavity nesters, but they're unable to make these cavities themselves. So they technically tend to use perhaps a woodpecker nest that's been left over or a cavity that's already available. And if they can't find one, they'll make what's known as a scrape, which is just a shallow depression in the sediment that they'll be allowed to have their eggs in and nest and brood there. And I'd like to take a note and see on this lower photograph here that they are in what looks to be a nest box, which will be important later. And I think it's really fun with the juveniles that you can see, the smaller chicks, and then the juvenile plumage and how they transition over time. So in the top corner here, you can see the difference between the male and female kestrels. The males have that darker blue slate color versus the females that have the lighter browner tones. And so we'll see the transition in these babies as we continue to go through the species. And so next up, we have Osprey, which do migrate for nesting. And we've been seeing a couple of these guys up in the nesting pools around Fort Collins. So definitely keep your eyes up as you're driving around town. They're very recognizable. They have those dark eyeliner stripes and the white bellies and the darker colored wings as well. They only eat fish, which is really an interesting fact about them. As you can see that one going in for the dive bomb up there. And that coloration is just really distinct. So definitely keep your eyes out for them. Our next species on the docket is going to be the red-tailed. Oops. Did we skip? Sorry. No problem. We will do whatever comes up. Okay, so here we have the red-tailed hawks. They are known for nesting higher up in the trees. And it is their mating season here. I saw a red-tailed hawk the other day when I was driving, and they had a large branch in their feet, which I was just really excited about. That got me really looking forward to seeing them nesting and making these connections moving forward. And they are a local species, so they're around all the time. So keep your eyes up and open for them, but not while you're driving, not like me. Next up, we have the turkey vultures. They migrate for breeding season as well. If you guys have been outside at all, I'm sure you've seen the large kettles of them circling overhead. And so there's an example there in the corner, and they're also a very recognizable species. They're going to have that brighter red coloration on the head against the dark bodies. And I think it's really funny to see these as juveniles as well, because it's such a stark difference from them as adults. And so seeing that transition over time is just a really exciting aspect of the growth process here. And so back to circle around to our great horned owls, again, who we have with us here. The program has been seeing an influx of these juveniles this breeding season. And in order to care for these animals, they are fed in a very specific way that they have no association to humans in the wild. And so there's equipment that goes into this. It's like a wide brim hat with a very dark netting around. And so there's equipment that goes into this. It's like a wide brim hat with a very dark netting around it, dark gloves, and there is absolutely no talking around these animals whatsoever. And so that is really to distinguish and keep them separated from seeing or equating humans as a parental figure or as receiving food in any way. And these little guys who look quite a bit different than our educational ambassador we have here with us today, their reaction to this is generally like a hissing and a clacking with their beak, which is really what we want to see here at the center. That means that they're wary of us and they're not quite sure what's going on, which means that there will be great candidates for release and no association with humans whatsoever. And so when we talk about breeding season and these things in the spring, we get really excited. But what can we do to help this process move smoothly for the animals that we have around us? And so first things first, I'd just like to ask that we keep our space. If the birds are aware of you, you're honestly too close to them. And so one way to combat this is to use binoculars. And this is actually going to be beneficial for you as well, because if you're using binoculars from a longer distance, it's going to encourage the birds to engage in their natural behaviors, something that they would be less inclined to do if you're close to them and they're aware of your presence. And so this could include feeding the babies, that would be a great thing to see, but that's not something they're going to partake in if you are causing a disturbance to the nest. As I mentioned earlier, American kestrels can't make their own nests, or they don't. And so one way to help is to set up a nesting box for them. And so in order to install these, we look to install them in the non-breeding season, which around here is like October to January, and that way they're all set up and ready when they do look forward to that breeding. They recommend an open area about 10 feet or a little bit higher off the ground, and try to avoid putting them up anywhere around roads. That's just gonna invite perhaps a potentially deadly situation we would not want for these guys. In addition, let's check for nests before cutting or trimming the trees. In addition to the very big visible nests that we can see, there are also nests in cavities, and so try and see if there are some other signs of nesting behaviors, maybe a conglomeration of mutes, which is just their fecal and waste discharge, or even some feathers as molting season, or a potential just feathers could be dropping around there. And if you happen to run into a situation where you think a raptor or nestling might be in need of help, please give us a call. These birds can't fly very well when they first leave the nest, so they can potentially end up grounded, which might not be a serious emergency, but best case scenario is that the professionals can come out and re-nest that bird, and that just gives them more time with their parents to be able to have the best success possible. If you happen to see any visible signs of trauma, blood, for example, or you can just tell that something is not right, continue to still give us a call. We'll be able to provide instruction in this situation, and we may need that animal to come in, whether that means we ask for you to bring them to us or we're actually able to do the rescue ourselves. So definitely don't take any steps until you've given your local rehabilitation clinic a call. So I wanted to thank you guys for joining us today, myself and the educational ambassador that we have with us. Next month, we've mentioned migration a little bit today, but next month we're going to be talking about all sorts of migration. So definitely subscribe to our channel to stay up to date and catch all of our great live streams that we have coming up. Follow social media as well so you're never behind, always up to date, and we look forward to seeing you soon.